What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Mira is following me all over the house like crazy, but I'm getting ready to go outside and start painting the RTR Spec 2. As we get ready to do all of our prep work, as you can see, the bumper's a little dirty. We'll go through, we'll clean everything. We do have some nicks here on the bumper that'll probably have to get fixed. Those two there. And then this one here, which was kind of a deep dig into the polyurethane. On the top, we got some scratches here. Another big gouger right here. And this all came from me putting stuff on the hood as I move stuff around. Hopefully most of that will sand off and we won't really have to use any filler. Both fenders are in pretty good condition. Same with the spoiler. In the back here with the rear bumper, I had put out a feeler trying to see if anybody wanted to swap me bumpers because I do have the bumper with the reverse sensors and I don't have reverse sensors on my car, but it looks like we're gonna either have to plug those or I'm going to have to actually get the sensors for those. Looking at brand new, it's going to cost me about 130 bucks to put those sensors in there, which I don't want to do if they're not going to work. But if I can get them to work, then that'd be great. I have all of the hardware off the front bumper, chin spoiler, upper lower grills, the little veins there on the side. I do have to remove this plastic trim piece right here before we start sanding anything down. On the hood, we have some plastics that we need to remove underneath, as well as the heat shielding underneath. I don't know if it's heat shielding. I really don't think it is. I think it's just a fluffy looking mat to make everything look pretty. So we need to do that and then we can get to sanding. Got the car out of the garage and we're gonna start dismantling it so we can start sanding down items like this so we can get them ready for paint. Don't have a lot to do. Already took everything off of the front bumper. We need to take the stuff off from underneath the bottom side of the hood, and then down here we need to remove this trim piece and then some of the reflectors on the rear bumper. But we're gonna go ahead and start with the spoiler because it's probably gonna be the easiest. Right?
Right.
More energy, child!
I don't know, I was just sitting here and I was like, it's so relaxing, I could take it down.
God, you're so lazy. We have the rear spoiler off of this car. Now remember, the spoiler that we're putting on here is a performance pack level 1 or 2 level. Is it level? No. So this is a performance pack spoiler. And in case you didn't know, this actually comes apart in multiple pieces. So you have the center piece here, which mounts up here. And you have two 10mm bolts on either side. You have these little flaps here that cover up the holes for your outside winglets here. All you have to do is take a little body panel removal tool, get up underneath there, and then you have three 10mm bolts. All of its 10mm bolts held together on either side. So we have this whole thing taken apart so that we can sand everything down and get everything fully primed and painted. The last thing we want to do is have like little bits of black sticking out in here. So we're going to do that, clean up all of the 3M double-sided tape on it so we can sand everything down. This is most likely going to be the hardest part to sand down and prep because of all the 3M tape, because of all the grooves that you have on the spoiler. Nothing else is really like that. Most of it's going to be flat surfaces, especially like on the hood and the fenders. That'll be real easy to get taken care of. Stop staring into the camera. Have the performance pack spoiler and all its little bits sanded down. As you can see, we're not taking off all the paint, we're just getting down the clear. What I'm doing here is taking my little hand sander for some of the bigger parts, my buffer with a sanding pad, and then also some 320 and 220 sandpaper and sand blocks. Here is the rear bumper in progress. Again, you can see that I'm not trying to take it down to the bare plastics. I'm just trying to get rid of the clear on this. Of course, I need to go in here and get some of these areas by hand. You'll notice what I'm doing here with the machine is I'm getting the flat spots. I'm not getting any of these ridges I'm trying to stay away from curves because what'll happen is it'll flatten it out or dig too deep. You can see right here in this corner, I hit the ridge and it went down way too deep. So I'm gonna have to use body filler on that. But other than that, everything else is going pretty good. We should have the rear portions of the car done today. I might move on to the fender or the hood if I have time. Maybe the fenders because they look like they'd be pretty easy. The bumper, the front bumper is going to be one of the last pieces I do. There are some nicks and scrapes on there like I showed before that need to be fixed with filler, but I want to focus on getting these done. And then what we're going to do is after everything is sanded down, we're going to pull the Mini out and close down the garage and spray everything with primer. Again, still don't know if I'm going to do the actual painting of the car, but I'm at least gonna get the primer down. Well, I'm done for today. We got the rear bumper done, the bits of the spoiler over there, as well as back behind the hood, which I have done. You can see in some spots, it started to go down to the primer. So I hit that a little bit too hard, but it's not gonna hurt anything. We're gonna be spraying over everything. I didn't really do the underside of the hood. I scuffed it up a little bit, but there's no clear or anything on that. So when you start to rub across it, it starts going straight through the paint. We do still have to clean everything up, degrease it and all of that. The only piece that we have left to do is the front bumper, which is still on the car. I'm gonna take it off here in a second before I move it into the garage. But I'll get that done during the week and then we'll jump ahead to the weekend when Tut and I are getting ready to spray it. It is now the weekend and I have come through and I've washed all these pieces here with soap and water to prep them for paint today, or at least primer. I still have to paint this rear bumper and fix that spot that I sanded down a little too deep. Same over here with the front bumper. It is ready to go, but there's a couple spots around here that I need to hit with some Bondo. If we look over here at the hood, I'm getting ready to do final prep on this and hopefully you can see this. If you look, I've come through here and in some spots it's started to go clear down through the paint. And if you're asking what grit did I use on this? Scotch-Brite. It is so thin here on the bottom of this hood that you can just run through with the palm of your hand and scuff this up and get this thing ready for paint just by doing it that way. If you look over here, you can kind of see where it's bare metal. There's not a whole lot separating the metal from this thin blue layer here. So this will be ready here shortly. I'm gonna run to AutoZone, grab some Bondo to do those patches, and then Drew should be back with me so we can get everything primed and ready to go. I'm not gonna be removing these. I thought about it, I just don't feel like it. And then also, I'll probably pop this off and these stickers as well. This here is a sticker that comes from some of the local dealerships, mainly our Planet Ford dealerships, which are also RTR dealers. They put this on here and it etches into the metal this serial number. That way, in case the piece is ever stolen, they can recover it. They know whose car it belonged to. Been sanding down the Bondo that I put on here. It's actually looking pretty good. Got in some of these crevices, got some of these nicks here that were in the bumper. This one over here was especially bad. Got that one out there pretty well smoothed out. Also got up here where the front license plate holder would go because Gator don't run no front plate. Sorry, I was watching the other guys last night and I still got a little bit of that Will Ferrell in me. Over here on the rear bumper, I'm getting ready to start sanding this down. What I did with the front bumper is I went over it with a 120 to get down the bulk of it. Then I went over it with a 220 to even that out a little bit, and then went down to the 320 because that's what everything was sanded with. So it'll be pretty much even all the way across the board when you feel across the bumpers. I didn't end up having to use any on the hood because if you guys remember, there were some deep scratches over here. I think maybe one down there. But after I sanded everything down past the clear, all that stuff went away. So the hood is good and ready. I might do a few touch-up spots here or there. Do need to wash this down again now that I've sanded it and it's got some new grime on it. But after that, everything else in this garage is hung and ready for paint. So we're gonna get started on that here shortly. not from Texas and you want to know how nasty Texas is, this is my gloves after 15 minutes of painting. These things were nasty. There was like buckets of sweat dripping out of them when I took these things off. Gotta love the summertime. Drew's in here getting everything cleaned up afterwards. We did everything, I think, to the best of our ability. Now it just comes down to sanding everything after it's all said and done and dried. Still need to get the paint, so it gives this plenty of time to cure since it's a lacquer paint. I don't know if we're going to be finding a lacquer paint and grabber blue to put this back on, but if it's enamel, we need to let this thing cure long enough, so we'll have to see where that goes. So going through looking at everything, it looks pretty decent. Would I say it's grade A experience level? No, but if you look at it, it actually turned out really well. The hood we'll have to see when we get it down because of that top edge. But I will say that these are painted while they're on the car, so you don't get 100% coverage anyway, and it's not like we're painting bare metal. As I said, we weren't going to pay a whole lot of attention to the bottom of the hood. I did take off those plastic pieces. I figured just 3M tape, it can't be too hard to put back on. We tried to get in here in the grooves around our fenders. We didn't worry too much about this edge right here because that's all going to be covered by the Spec 5 fender flare, so we didn't need to go too in-depth with that. Our spoiler, we tried to get in all those crevices that you'd be able to see once the paint gets laid down. And I know when going to paint the color, areas like this are gonna be tough because it was hard to get in there with primer too, so we gotta definitely take care of that. The rear bumper wasn't too horrible, even though it has a bunch of different grooves. Just had to hit it from a few different angles. It was far worse trying to hit all the crazy angles on this front bumper than it ever was to try and get anything else. Drew got the tank emptied out, got the guns cleaned up, and not too bad, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll see how it goes when we go to spray down the color. Here's the bits from the spoiler. Hopefully I got the other edge. I didn't really think when I turned this table about trying to get that other edge, but I think it'll work. My biggest worry is just getting the color down when it comes time. The primer is going to get sanded anyway before we have to throw down color, so any imperfections we can smooth out then. So we just finished up painting. Everything is in there and good. Now the search begins for the actual grabber blue paint. We're not doing a one stage where it's all the clear and the base all put in there together. We are actually, as you saw, spraying down the primer. We're going to spray down the base coat of the color, and then we're going to be throwing in our clear coat and sanding all that down. That is the only part of this that has me a little bit nervous. Like I've said before, I've only ever done flat or matte paints. I'm sure we'll do fine. Drew has the utmost confidence in us, so hey, at least one of us does. But I don't know if that will be the next video. It might be. We don't know. We'll see. But until next time, peace.